Hello, I'm going to be talking about the new government we have in Britain. It's quite a radical. It's the same political party, but it is quite a radical change now, and I just hope it's for the better. So Liz Truss has taken over from Boris Johnson, and the first thing I have to say is that the transfer has been very civilised and very polite. She was extremely gracious about Johnson in her maiden speech as Prime Minister, and I was very impressed by the gracious speech that Boris Johnson made, but you know, he does have a way with words. For those of you who didn't hear the speech, he likened himself to one of those booster rockets that's fulfilled its function, and I will now be gently re-entering the atmosphere and splashing down invisibly in some remote and obscure corner of the Pacific. Now, that's a nice thing. He said he started the Conservative Party in a certain direction. He's taken that, his own pat on his own back, but he's now handing on the rest of the journey to the main rocket, maybe. Okay. And there was also a long list of thank yous he made, from the resident cat at 10 Downing Street through all the staff who looked after him and his family, and to the voters for giving me the chance to serve. And that was very nice. Yeah, as I said, he has a good way with words. Now, I viewed his departure with somewhat mixed feelings. When he formed the government, when he got elected, and when the Conservative government got elected, I was ecstatic. But then we had Jeremy Corbyn as the alternative. But I had such high hopes, and I watched as he, throughout his administration, you know, it was like watching someone being swallowed up by quicksand. They start off on a jaunty progress across what looks like solid ground, and then bit by bit they start to disappear until all you see of them left is a few bubbles in the sand. Now, Truss appears to be either telling everybody that she is changing things, or she genuinely is changing things. So first of all, she's cleared off all of Rishi Sunak's allies, and I do the same myself there. He was a backstabber. He got a bunch of people around him who were prepared to assist him in this backstabbing. And I have a friend who happens to know Rishi Sunak, or I mean, she's got friends who know Rishi Sunak personally, and they say he's a very charming fellow and very good to his staff in the offices he's worked in. But I don't care about that. I just care about what I could see. We couldn't allow the party to be led by somebody who was so obviously out for Johnson's job from the beginning. I mean, they all want to be Prime Minister, or most of them do, but he was very obvious. And you can't allow the media, who were definitely doing everything they could to undermine Johnson, because they could never forgive him for Brexit. Never. And he was just riding that wave, and I couldn't allow anyone like that to lead the party I was going to vote for. So Rees-Mogg is business secretary. The chief economic advisor is Matthew Sinclair, and now he started a group called the Taxpayers Alliance, which is a very successful fiscal gnat, a sort of hornet that keeps stinging the government about their fiscal irresponsibility. And that's Matthew Sinclair. And he will certainly, if he's advising Liz Truss about economic matters, then he's going to be campaigning for a lot more responsibility in public finances. And now, a lot of political commentators, I'm sorry to say, they mostly appear to be men, are being quite snooty about Liz Truss, saying she's a bit dim. She does give the impression of being a bureaucrat, an apparatchik, rather than the sort of bombastic personality that Boris Johnson is. But actually, what a prime minister needs to be is somebody who knows how to choose her advisors and then knows when to step back and take their advice and then step back and let them get on with it. But she's going to get a lot of sniping from a lot of snooty metropolitans in the BBC, that's for sure. Now, the interesting thing about the Truss government, the Truss administration, is that she's going to really confuse the snooty metropolitans. How they're going to go for her now. The Labour Party hasn't had one female leader. They had one. Margaret Hodge. Oh, was it Margaret Hodge? No, it wasn't. Oh, crikey. Do you know? So forgettable. I've forgotten her name. There was, in between two leaders, there was a caretaker leader, a female, but she was hardly in for 2 or 3 months before they'd elected another man. So there's Truss. That's more difficult for the Labour Party to get at, and Angela Rayner, the deputy, can now no longer distract the Prime Minister by crossing and uncrossing her legs opposite in the opposite benches. I'm sorry that Dominic Raab's gone. I don't know why that happened. He was very good. And then there's Liz Truss, and then her second in command is somebody called Theresa Coffey, who is even more difficult for the Labour Party to have a go at. First of all, she's a woman, and secondly, she is generally of an unusual size, I'd say. And the Labour Party find themselves, she's ticked this box, she's ticked that box. That's going to be really difficult for them. And there's something even more unusual. I discovered The Guardian actually likes Theresa Coffey. Now, I had it here, and unfortunately, just a minute, I've got to call up the Guardian article. Here we are. Theresa Coffey, convivial pragmatist, inherits health service in crisis. So we do know the health service is in crisis, and she's supposed to look for it, but she is the ideal person who's going to deal with it. Whatever she does, the Guardian and the Labour Party are going to have a lot of trouble having a go at her because, well, just look at her. Coffey, a close friend of the new Prime Minister, faces daunting task as she becomes the third Health and Social Care Secretary in 2 months. Yeah, there's a problem. And the problem is partly to do with the way the health service is set up. In fact, it's more to do with the way the health service is set up than anything else. The thing is, when the British government did set up the health service, it was they got the specialists and the doctors on board by bribing them in certain ways, and bit by bit, although it started off all right, as is often the case, all the looseness in definitions and permissions started to drift. And now, for instance, COVID really gave a serious problem, because doctors started to realise they could do telephone consultations with patients, and there's been one very high profile case of a woman who died because the telephone conversations just weren't enough to diagnose the cancer that she had. So here, the Guardian, Theresa Coffey is a beer, music and football loving MP whose lively karaoke parties are the stuff of legend at Westminster. Oh, that's good, because the press would have been there, and there's nothing the press like more than a good rave up of some sort. And so we've got Theresa Coffey, and this is what really bothers me. So look at this. Look at what The Guardian says. This is about a Tory, remember. She is renowned as a work obsessive, even by Parliament's usual standards. Her life is basically all about Westminster, one colleague told the Sunday Times recently, or The Guardian reporting the Sunday Times. I mean, how bad can things get? Department of Health and Social Care officials should brace themselves for a very demanding new boss. Despite her reputation as a tough taskmaster, though, she is very popular with colleagues. She's convivial and pleasant company and fond of a few drinks, one says. Well, there you are. What more could what better compliment could a reporter give about a politician? Okay, so I think the world is changing a little bit, and I'm starting to get really worried. If Liz Truss has appointed staff and colleagues that The Guardian approves of, that makes me slightly worried. All right, I am Granniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. I let you know when I've uploaded a video on @Granniopteryx, on Twitter, Gab and Parler, and it might be worthwhile subscribing to one of those, because if you're watching me on YouTube, you might not get notifications. Also, you might discover that your subscription has not kept going. So just check your subscription and subscribe if you haven't. One can only try. Okay, yeah, please like, share and support my channel if you can. Dancing Beaker there, and below you'll find a couple of other ways of contributing if you fancy doing that. Okay, well, till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Granniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.